people always keep saying to us, what's your sort of story? Why are you so lucky in what you do? How comes you've got the sort of talent that you have? And bless you, my son. And and what is it and what does it take? And the simple part that we play is that we just engage with everybody that we come into contact with. So there will be a point this evening where I will fling my arms around you and hug you dearly. But that's essentially what we do. So we build diverse talent pipelines. That's essentially what we put together every single day. And the reason why we do this is because we want to mix it up. Although we're from a TV background, broadcast professionals, we're also seeing the fact that the digital kids that are out there who are already tech savvy are upon us. And so we're talking about Gen Y, Gen Z, and let's not even get to Gen K, which is the next group on the block. And what we're saying to the industry is if you're not prepared to mix it up, if you're not prepared to include and be inclusive in the way that you want maybe your newer staff to look like, if you're not doing that in a digital sense, then you're actually missing a huge gig. So what we actually do is we now are solution driven. And by that I mean is that we actually build these talent pipelines which are actually specific to each genre that's out there. So the story begins for me in 2009 when my son was shot and stabbed while he was in school. And the reason given by the attacker for stabbing my son was that he said he hated him for having two parents at home. And I didn't actually have a response for that, and I didn't want revenge. So the first thing that I did was I forgave this guy, and then the next thing that I did is I actually had to learn how to listen. And my son is alive, and he actually catapulted me onto this path that I'm on today by actually telling me a little while later that although he loved me beyond words, the thing I didn't do very well was listen. And that was a huge shock for me because I actually thought, well, I've got two ears and I know I'm not deaf, so therefore I must listen. And I remember going back to him and saying, but I know I listened to you because, and he said, can I just stop you there, Mum? In your efforts to come back to me to tell me that you're listening, you're no longer listening. So every single thing that we do alongside engaging with our audience, be it TV or the community, is that we listen like our lives depend on it. So I just thought I'd introduce you to some of the gang. That's what they look like. We're known to do a bit of work now and again, depending on the day and the season. But they head up, the talent that's out there. We don't deal in ethnicity. That might be a shock to you all. And I wear red because it's a really good colour for the rotten tomatoes that come my way when I say that. But what we do really well is we look for talent. And coming from an industry, be it TV, be it advertising, creative, film, gaming, it really doesn't matter. You need talent to drive that. So what we actually do is that we develop strategic partnerships, both in TV, gaming, film, creative, advertising, you name it. We don't limit ourselves. We're looking for that engagement. And then we actually solve problems like the skills gap. We join up those dots. We are all about fair access, authentic content. It's not about quotas or tick boxes. Every time I hear about that, my heart just falls. I just don't see how we can deliver talent when you're actually looking to tick a box. I always sign tangerine on my forms. It sends everybody doolally. But it means that I'm trying to engage, yeah? So the other little thing that we do is we build trust, and we've spent 6 years in the community, and by that I mean we've actually developed a really unique 5-stage process. And what that actually involves is that we actually go out to prisons, we go out to youth offending teams, we go out to kids on the street, kids in care, graduates, kids in school. It doesn't really matter, and we go and we listen. So it's got nothing to do with my 21 years in TV. I've actually got to learn about the new guys on the block. Okay, and then to that, in the mix it up, the old being people like myself. Yes, I've got that single CSE. I'm one up on you. I'm one up on you. I'm 51, okay, but I still think I've got a lot to offer. And if you mix up the Gen X, which is what I come from, with the Gen Ys and the Gen Zs and the soon-to-come Gen K, we think we've got something really powerful on the ground. And so that's what we do when we talk about the listening. So since 2009, over 2,500 financially, this is the key to listening, financially disadvantaged young people have actually benefited from free employability skills. And what we do is we actually bring in broadcast professionals who offer their time free of charge, they volunteer, and what we're getting is up-to-date, real world of work, real skills that these guys can then transfer into social mobility and economic mobility. That is, they go into employment. But it is meritocracy based. You just can't walk in without the value, and that's the next thing. So we started with engagement, then I talked about listening. We're really big on value. In order to earn value, you've got to actually go out there and pick it up and play with it. You can't just say, you know, I've had a bad life, or I've been through this particular door, give it to me. Go earn that value. And from that, we then actually start to look at what we can build with our groups of young people. So in this 5-stage process that I've talked to you about, once we get to stage 2, what we actually do is we listen to that financial disadvantage and we conduct telephone interviews in recognition of that. And we actually get the ball rolling by listening at that stage. We don't actually want to know the qualification. We don't really need to know your postcode. Not really interested in your gender. If you're a tangerine, that's great. But, you know, we just want to listen to what the idea of that young person and what it is that they think they want to bring to the world. And at that point is where the magic starts. Because you've got people saying, well, I've just wrote this silly little script. I know it's rubbish. It doesn't probably mean anything. But, you know, just wondered if you'd be interested. And that's enough for us. The qualifications are not the be-all and end-all of where we're going next. And then what we do at stage 3 is we invite them down to a free employability skill. And the thing that we do is slightly differently is we actually bring the industry in, cheek by jowl. We don't identify anyone in the audience. And it's a fantastic moment for demystification of lots of things. Okay? And at that point, we then start the employment or the training or the internship or the apprenticeship pathways. And of the 2,500 young people that have been through our employability skills program, over 67% of those that we've mentored have actually got into the industry and stayed. And that's key. That's not luck. That's down to listening, that's down to engaging, that's down to adding value through those free employability skills. So in terms of the success stories, the industry then began to sit up and take notice. And these are some of the sponsors that have come on board. Because at a failed stroke, what they're getting are diverse talent pipelines who are actually industry ready. Because we know that many industries such as television, creative, etc., time poor. So we take over that aspect of the time poor bit, and it makes it cost effective to the industry. They get industry ready candidates at entry and junior level at their door, ready to work. It's a great marriage. And from those success stories, what we've then done is we've said to the companies, we have 3 core services for you. And they'll say, well, what's that? And we say, well, it's diverse recruitment. Okay, it's video content. Get your message out there about what you're doing with your initiatives. Far too few people know about it. We'll take it on the road with ourselves to the prisons, to the youth offending teams, to the places least likely that you'll visit on a Monday morning. You know, you're not going to really want to go to those places. Let's be honest about that. And then we'll take your brand, in the truest sense, into the heart of some of the most disconnected and diverse communities. And really, the answer to all of this actually lies in the communities. The answer to the lack of diversity and how we address the skills gap lies right here. It's under our noses, in the heart of these communities. And that's what we really marry up well. So in terms of what happens next, well, it all gets a little bit interesting. And what we're saying is that diversity and the skills gap in the creative industries have been in the news lately. You've seen the Brits, you've seen the Oscars, you've seen what happened at BAFTA. And again, we just think that if we get the diverse talent pipelines out there in the way that we've been doing in TV, but we spread that good cheer, those good words, in other sectors, that we could actually have something which is really, really fantastic. And I really echo what you've just been saying. It's about the real world of work, up-to-date knowledge, and key people that are prepared to give their time. We have 32 dedicated broadcast professionals that give their time. It isn't going to happen without investment. I really wish it could do Scotch Miss, but it really isn't about that. There has to be the financial investment. There has to be those that want to divest their time. But what you stand to get back in terms of increased revenue, content that makes sense to the diverse audiences that are out there and desperate to receive is second to none. And I think the UK, we should be going in this direction. I think at the moment we're plateauing. So there's lots to look at. So in terms of what happens next in the future, here's a couple of case histories. Jean came to us when she was 21. And the thing about Jean was just that she had a spark. She came from a financially disadvantaged background. She'd ruled herself potentially out of TV, and even if she was going to go into TV, she said she wanted to be the next hotshot director producer. Usually it's about presenting, but after that it's about, you know, being a director and producer. And we actually managed that expectation really, really well. We say, nah, you're going to have to start at the bottom, mate, all right? And that's pretty much it. So we get them in the room, we talk to them, it's the real world of work. The thing about Jean was that because she's surrounded by people that are professionals and in the industry, the first thing one of our volunteers did, this chap that's follically challenged just sitting here with the glasses at the front, called Ian, said, do you know what, you strike me as production management material. Just listening to you at stage 2 of our 5-stage process where we just sit and listen. Don't say anything, zip it, listen. And with that, there was something awakened in Jean. And what happened after that is that we invited some of the industry down. It just so happened that Hattrick were in the room. They had a production secretary scheme going. She went and interviewed for that and ended up spending a year. And the story goes on to where she's now on the 3rd series of The Voice. So we can track our young people because as part of that storytelling, we actually genuinely want to stay in touch and we genuinely want to engage, and we have long-term mentoring if they want it. Emmanuel, he'd written himself off because he had a disability. But we just said, well, why? Let's focus on what you think you can do. What interests you? Well, he wasn't too sure, but we took him along to an event and we just saw him all over cameras. So we just thought, well, maybe that's where your leaning is. So this is organic. This really is organic in every sense of the word. But where it ended up for Emmanuel was that we were able to open an opportunity for him again. He had to go and interview for it, and he was able to interview the ex-President Clinton at the time. And then he managed to get himself onto a Shine initiative and worked for a year as a logger. And where he is now, he's actually going to come on the road with us with ProMats. It's one of our sponsors in the creative side of things, looking at a junior researcher role. So we can kind of keep up and we can kind of tell you where our young people are at because we actually genuinely care. If they're not right for TV, we don't drop them. That's part of our social commitment. But we will find other strands and other industries that we think that they are, you know, better suited to. So that stage 2 on that stage 5 process that we have is really valuable. So over the next couple of years, because we are looking at the future of TV, we're looking at the future of so many sectors, there are a couple of mega trends. And this is where it gets really, really, really exciting. And these mega trends will actually tip audience engagement. It goes back to that value and how you engage with people and how you build that trust. We've got 6 years in the community. And what we're saying is that the young people that we're witnessing and who we are now seeding, lots of the organisations who are now our sponsors, is that we're saying in the next 2 years, we're currently at about 30% penetration of the World Wide Web. That's going to go up on a near vertical to 80% by the end of 2017 to 18. You heard the story of Kodak. Somebody said, do you want to do digital? They said, well, what's digital? We don't need to do that. We're the leading industry. Fujiyama heard that and ran with it. And most of Kodak's market deserted them. They tried to play catch-up, couldn't do the catch-up, and went into bankruptcy after 150 years on the block. This is the point with mega trends. They are a seismic event that tends to happen as a one-off, and there isn't the room for catch-up. And so what we're saying is, if you want to be part of that mega trend, in whichever sector you are, be it TV or otherwise, the deal is to get on board now. Start seeding your organisations, your companies, with that talent and that to cover that skills gap that you need to be with and be in for the new mega trends. So along with that 218 penetration, 80%, you will have coming online an extra 5 billion audience. You know, how much of a part of that do you want? And that's the question that we ask the companies that we go to see. And for those that are actually listening and investing in our talent pipelines, we're bringing them all of that up-to-date information, you know, right to their front door. So here's another little lovely shot. This is myself with some of the guys who we've developed a talent pipeline for creative skill set. They couldn't quite fill their spaces with diverse talent that were interested in high-end TV dramas, this your Downton Abbeys, etc. We were able to do that for them. And not in a sort of quick fix fashion. We've spent that time on the ground with these young people, but these were kids that were genuinely interested in going into TV and film drama, and we were able to bring a suitable diverse talent pipeline to creative skill set. We did a similar thing with BAFTA. We took 100 kids from the community who'd expressed an interest in working within the industry. Lorraine Hegacy, she's a fantastic patron. She's backed me right from the beginning. I sent out to 100 executives. 3 came back. Lorraine was one of them. And she's stuck with us ever since. And the whole time what we're trying to do is we wanted to take it to the next level. We're wanting to engage. We're wanting to see where we can make a difference, and we think that difference is happening already in terms of the diverse talent pipelines that we provide the industry. So if anyone's really interested in how do you become more diverse, you know, how do you get those pipelines on the ground, we're really, really happy to share. Come down for a cup of tea, a rich tea biscuit, we'll have a chat, we'll take it from there. Oh, and don't forget the tangerine. But do follow us on at So You Want to Be in TV, or get in contact with us at info@soyouwannabeintv. Thanks a lot. Have a good evening.